Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
What is poppin', Fantasy Champions?
What?
Rick is still on call, as you could hear him making noises in the background there.
Might have COVID, who knows?
Yeah, he's going to get a COVID test, so things are not developing properly. In the meantime, I have a bottle next to me that he drank last time he was here, probably fully covered in COVID.
I was like 2 weeks ago. I think you're good, but
I'm probably safe. I don't know. Maybe we'll see what happens.
Get like a piece of fabric or something.
Week 17's in the books. The NFL season is over. We made it. COVID did not stop us. Almost stopped Rick. But
Yeah,
did not stop
the NFL.
Did not stop the NFL. I had discussions with a friend, and they were like, I don't know if the NFL season's gonna end, because once they get pressured by people to end the season, they'll just end it, and then they'll shut down for a little while once the winter starts. I'm like, nope. Once the NFL stops, it's like a bowling ball of cash.
Yeah,
they're never gonna stop it. So we made it. End of the season. Now we got playoffs. Less people interacting with each other means less COVID, right? I would think.
Maybe.
I'm excited for the playoffs. But today, because Rick can't be here, we are originally going to do our Fantasy Football 2020 award show and give out awards to players for their successes during the fantasy football season or their failures. So,
and we will probably still do that next week unless I have COVID, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Hopefully you don't have COVID. But we're going to do that today. Rick couldn't come here for obvious reasons. He is still sick. So we moved that show to next week. And we are going to do a show that we were planning on doing at the end of the month. Today, we'll start off the 2021 breakdown of the NFL season with our biggest misses.
Yep.
Our biggest failing mistakes. There was a lot of them. I feel so horrible.
There was I mean,
we did good.
Considering we talk about every like top 100 player, right? We're obviously going to get wrong on a handful.
I get all the guys.
We got a lot right though too.
Yeah, I think it's good to hey, it'll help our listeners determine whether or not they want to continue listening to us. This is where I'll say. This is where I'll say. Any fantasy football podcast you listen to will make major failures. A lot of them had this. Some of the similar guys that we said were going to be breakouts, and some of them didn't work out. And those same podcasts are way bigger than us, and they're predicting the same things, and that didn't happen. So no one ever really truly knows what's going to happen. We're in the business of predicting. It's almost like projecting out what's going to happen. And if you tell me you watch The Weatherman and you expect him to be 100% right all the time, then you got another thing coming. So I'm not saying we're The Weatherman, but
it's kind of close. The most important thing though is to try to be right more than you're wrong.
Yeah, and we take all of the analytics that we have at our disposal, all the video that we have at our disposal, and try to give you the best predictions and projections for the season. So these are our biggest misses. It's gonna be a fun show to see where guys landed. So I threw a bunch of players on this list. But before we jump into our biggest misses of the 2020 fantasy football season, be sure to check out our website, thefantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter at the FFChamps, on Instagram at thefantasychampions. You can like us at facebook.com/thefantasychampions. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or any other podcasting platform, be sure to leave a review. Subscribe. I'll screw that up. Subscribe. And then share this podcast with your friends. If you're watching on YouTube, you can also hit the subscribe button. I really want to get to 200 subs before the Super Bowl. Please, just all you got to do is hit it. Get us to 200. You don't even have to watch later. You probably should, but I just get us to 200. That would be awesome. And then click the bell. We only need 3 more. 3 more to get to 200.
Oh, well, then subscribe.
Really not.
Let's do it.
My wife was like, should I subscribe? I'm like, no, you're not going to listen.
Yeah, we don't want
that.
no fake subscribers.
I don't want any fake subscribers. Click the bell for notifications because subscribing is not enough. And then like and comment down below. Comment any players that you expected to break out this year but didn't. Hold yourself accountable, not just us.
Yeah.
But hold yourself accountable. So let's get into our biggest misses. We're going to start with the quarterback position. And I'll start. Well, you know what? We won't go right in. We won't go right into the big guy that kind of blew up our ship. But I'm going to have Rick start off with the guy that we projected as a sleeper last year. He was big on this man, and he just pooped all over our parade.
Yeah, that guy is well, hold on. You said I was big on this guy? Was I?
Yeah, all off season. Watched a couple videos. I can.
Oh, okay. I mean, I remember I liked him, but
That's why he's a sleeper. We didn't project breakouts. We just said he was a sleeper.
This guy was a late round quarterback that we felt like was a sleeper and could have a major breakout because of his upside. That guy was Daniel Jones. Now, there is a reason. There's a valid reason though for this. This isn't just like some random guy at the end of the round. Was because Daniel Jones as a rookie was really, really solid last year. He had plenty of rushing. He had a high rushing floor, a couple rushing touchdowns. He was able to, I think he threw 24 touchdowns as a rookie. He averaged about 17.61 points per game last year, which wasn't bad. I want to say in 12 games he was like middle of the pack in quarterbacks. So as a rookie, which is very good. Like, I mean, we look at the rookies that did that this year, like Joe Burrow. Like, it's not crazy to think Joe Burrow could be a really good fantasy asset next year, right?
Right.
So that was the mindset, and it just didn't work out with Daniel Jones. He just wasn't that good, to be completely honest with you.
Neither were the Giants.
If you ask Giants fans, a lot of them say the offensive line is just as bad as it was last year, which was supposedly improved with Andrew Thomas taken at 4th overall. But a lot of people, like Giants fans that I talk to on Twitter and stuff that watch,
it takes more.
I haven't gotten into like film on the season, so about each team, so I don't know yet. But from what I've seen from the Giants, their offensive line is still bad. They do drop the ball a decent amount.
Yeah.
So they might. A lot of the Giants fans want them to draft a receiver, and then Daniel Jones also just didn't play that. Like, he really didn't take a year 2 jump, like some people were hoping, including us, that he could. But the thing with Daniel Jones was he was somebody that was just someone that you could take a late round flyer on. He wasn't really someone that would be like, you got to draft Daniel Jones. Unless I did.
Yeah, it was it was a sleeper thing, not the app.
Yeah.
The availability. So yeah, I mean, I like Danny Dimes in the preseason too. I'm not putting it all on Rick, but I mean, I built the draft guide and I put Daniel Jones on the sleeper list anyway.
Was I because I remember thinking that you were higher on Daniel Jones than I was. But
it's probably because I projected him higher. I don't know. But anyway, let's get to the big quarterback bust, which is it's A-Rod.
This one's on me. Yeah.
No, because I was with you. You know how I am with the quarterbacks who don't like to run the football.
Yeah.
So true. we projected Aaron Rodgers to bust this year. I thought he was going to be. I think I ranked him like QB 14 or something like that. QB 10 to 14. I don't have the stuff in front of me, so I can't really justify that. Actually, I'm going to pull it up just so we can see it. But anyway. Yeah, I had him ranked, I believe, 14, and I don't know where Rick had him ranked. Where'd you have him ranked, bud?
Probably, I think in the same range.
So we both thought he was going to bust because of the season that he had last year. We both kind of believed that he was on the back nine, and that it was kind of in the back end of his career. He doesn't have any weapons. I mean, they didn't add anything to that offense that would make you think that he was going to be better this year.
Correct.
But he was freaking insane. I think he finished the season as the QB3 overall through 17 weeks. QB3, 387 fantasy points, 24 fantasy points per game. So he was absolutely elite in a lot of ways at quarterback for you during the fantasy football season. So we were dead wrong on that, and I will work to be better.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up an old tweet of mine about Aaron Rodgers in the offseason. From my reasoning why I thought he was going to not be great this year. I remember at the time wasn't he like the QB5 coming off draft boards, QB6, something in that range, which at the time it just seemed like it was just too high for a guy who last year was not good. And as you said, they didn't add any weapons. They added A.J. Dillon, so it seemed like the team was committed to the run. Aaron Rodgers finished lower in 2019 than Daniel Jones in points per game. There's a guy we also got wrong on. That guy we just talked about, which was ranked, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. He was 15th among quarterbacks in 2019 in points per game. And then this year, he was just insane. Like he just he threw the ball over the field. Devontae Adams. I think that was the thing that we underestimated was Devontae Adams' impact in that offense and how good Aaron Rodgers was with Devontae Adams versus without. Because in 2019, I believe did Devontae Adams miss like half the season?
Yes, I believe so.
So I think that was a big factor that we didn't include. But so even people
I had him ranked 12 and Rick had him ranked 15. Consensus 13.
Yeah, and that was because that's where he finished the year before. So I didn't really see the team upgrading anywhere. He got a year older.
Yeah,
they seemed like they were going to commit to the run. And when I say upgrade anywhere, I mean receiver. They did not upgrade at receiver, and Devin Funchess opted out. It just everything was like, it just wasn't looking great, and we were wrong on that one, especially me. That's why I said especially because I was
now. I won't brag on us, but we did say that the QB1 and the QB2 through 17 weeks were breakouts.
Yeah, our breakout quarterbacks finished as QB1 and QB2.
Kyler Murray, Josh Allen. So that's good. Yeah. I remember saying Josh Allen as a 9th round pick could be Patrick Mahomes in that QB1 status.
Even I was like, that's a lot, but I understand.
Yeah. So anyway, let's move to the running back position where we got some guys wrong. Another Packer, Aaron Jones. This one, I think I drove the train on the Aaron Jones bus.
You drove the train on this one, yeah.
I just to give you the rankings on where we had them. Let me pull up RBs. This is half PPR. I think I had him 13. You had him 12. So we were right in the same vicinity in terms of rank. So I think all of it was touchdown regression. I don't think there was anything there that made me believe that. I even said, if you go back and listen to our bus show for running backs and wide receivers, I said straight up that I believe in Aaron Jones as a talent. I don't believe in Matt LaFleur's ability to successfully get a running back to RB5 2 straight seasons. So I think for Aaron Jones, it was more or less a situation where I thought he was just going to regress touchdown-wise, and he just didn't. I don't know how many touchdowns he scored, but he ended the season as the RB5. I was telling Rick before the show, though, that I projected him to have 200 and like 10 or 11 fantasy points. Or I actually projected him to have like 219, I think, and he ended with like 211. So it was really strange how that whole thing worked out. But I was hoping that he would be a lot better this year. I mean, a lot worse. I wasn't hoping that he would be worse. I was hoping that I would be right, and I was wrong. So,
do you know where I had Aaron Jones ranked in the beginning?
You had him 12.
That's where you had him, or I had him.
I had him 13. You had him 12.
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, which is because I just looked back at my projections and I had him ranked 7th projections. I don't know why. I think the same thing. There was only 2 things in my mind why with Aaron Jones. There's just a lot of running backs early.
Yeah.
That I just liked better. Number 1, or there's 3 things. So that was number 1. Number 2 was the A.J. Dillon factor. I thought there was a legitimate chance that he could take goal line carries away, which leads into number 3, which was the regression in touchdowns. But none of that happened.
Yeah.
And it seems like A.J. Dillon is still going to take away some stuff, but it's A.J. Dillon's pick wasn't for this year. It was more like he's going to kind of redshirt this year, and then if Aaron Jones leaves in free agency or Jamal Williams, A.J. Dillon then is going to – that's when they're going to use him a lot. Because in the game where Jamal Williams was out, what was it, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Against the Titans
He
on
was
Sunday
very
Night
good.
Football. A.J. Dillon had like 20 carries for like 100 and something yards and 2 touchdowns. So I think they're going to use him a lot next year, but not this year.
So I should have let you say the Aaron Jones one because I feel like I need to bear the crown for both of these men. But I'm going to let you give the next running back that we got wrong.
Yeah, our the next guy.
I don't even know if this guy we got wrong. Really,
we got him wrong. It's Miles Sanders as a breakout. And we were both really like the Miles Sanders trade. He was great last year as a rookie. And then year 2, he was injured a lot. When he was out there in the beginning of the season, though, he was great. He really was great. He was just injured. So it wasn't really like his fault. And then at the end of the year, it was kind of not great. But then he kind of got better again when Jalen Hurts came in. So I don't know. This one isn't like crazy. I think it's just where you picked him. Because if you were like us, you would have picked him in the second round.
Yeah.
And that was just too early for someone with injuries and stuff. But it's not really your fault. It's like the Nick Chubb thing. Like Nick Chubb missed like 6 games and still finished as a top 10 running back. So it's like he wasn't as good as Nick Chubb by any means, but he wasn't that bad all season. And then I think it was more like a Doug Peterson thing and Carson Wentz. That offense was just bad. They had injuries on the offensive line too. It just wasn't great.
I think he had a really great season if you take away like there was like a stretch of 3 games where he was just garbage.
Yep. And that was Carson Wentz's last 3 games.
Yeah, and it was just like it was bad. And then as soon as Hurts came in and they could move the ball, he got better. But if you give him, if you get him, I didn't even consider that. If you get him to 16 games, he gets up to 200 and I think 10 fantasy points, which puts him at RB9, ahead of.
Right. Which is like where we had him, right? Around that range.
Right. So I think what he was on a points per game basis was a pretty, let me see, taking guys out that had 1 game. He was like the running back, he was like the running back 12 or something like that. So, yeah, I mean, I think for him, I don't know if it was like a complete miss, but it was injuries and other things. It was about as equal of a miss as like telling you to draft Barkley. You know what I mean? Which no one can predict or project that a guy like Barkley or McCaffrey is going to get injured. But I think, there were points in the year, like I told Rick that he had like 3 80-yard runs this year or something like that. Like, he's ridiculously talented. I think it's Doug Peterson and it was Carson Wentz being garbage for a majority of the year that really pushed him down to like running back, I think 23 right now. So obviously if he comes back next year and he gets the workload that he got this year, I'm curious. I haven't fully broken down the numbers that he's had, but I still believe in Miles Sanders, but where do you think he's going to end up this year? In the redraft.
Like in a redraft?
Yeah.
In like what round he's going to get taken?
Yeah.
I think he'll probably be a late 3rd.
Okay.
Where do you think?
I don't want to say.
Okay.
I don't want to say anymore. I'm hurt. I really am. I'm like I love Miles Sanders a lot. I think he's a great player. I'm so conflicted because he really does look like McCaffrey light a lot of the time.
Well, when he gets going in the open field, he is fantastic.
Yeah, and I mean even like with the pass catching he did last year, but then this year it was like I don't know if it was Wentz or it was just him dropping passes, but I think he was like 3rd in the league in dropped passes. Like it was bad. So I just don't know if that's something that's going to continue with Sanders. But he was a guy that we told you. I'll tell you, in my mind, I probably said it on the podcast a lot, but in my mind, I thought he was going to be a top 5 running back. Like I was convinced.
Yep.
I was not more sure of a player being a top 5 running back than anybody, and I was dead wrong.
Yeah.
So this guy, I threw him on here. He's not really a bust, if we're being fair, in PPR and half PPR. Because I guess where I think me and Rick both had him ranked kind of where he ended up. Let me just pull it up. So it's Kenyan Drake. I had him ranked 7. Rick had him ranked 9. He finished as the RB 14. And he only played in 15
really
games. He
a
didn't
crazy miss.
It's not a crazy miss. I just threw him on here because I felt like he was garbage.
He was, yep, I agree.
Efficiency-wise, I was not expecting. Here's the funny thing about Drake is that everything that I projected for him would have come true had they utilized him in the passing game the way they did last year. They just moved the passing work that Drake got over to Chase Edmonds. And so I did not expect Edmonds to get used in this offense as much as he was. And I think that's why, to me, Kenyan Drake is a bust. If they had given him that pass-catching workload, he would have been like the RB8 or RB9 easily. If you just put like half of Chase Edmonds' fantasy points onto Kenyan Drake, it makes him the RB7. So I think for me, like I thought that's what was going to happen, and it just didn't pan out that way because Cliff Kingsbury decided that he wasn't going to utilize Kenyan Drake. I don't know what the future holds for Drake. If you own him in Dynasty, good luck.
Yeah,
what is he, 30?
Yeah, and that's kind of one of the reasons I was high on him in redraft. We both were, obviously. In Dynasty, I made sure I didn't draft him in any of my startups this year because, for one, his contract, and for two, I also thought they were going to run him into the ground this year. But the reason I really like Kenyan Drake was, I thought they were going to run him into the ground this year. Two, he was great in 2019 when he got traded to Arizona. And then he also wasn't used in the passing game at all. Like, the Chase Edmonds effect was real.
Well,
that was one of my concerns with him.
He was sixth in the league in carry, so they kind of did run him into the ground.
Yeah, they did a little bit.
He just only had 22 catches.
I was looking back at my old tweets, and I tweeted out, like, why do you guys – I tweeted that Drake was the RB3 or RB4.5 PPR when he got traded, and I said, why do people think he won't have a great year? And I was like, is it because Chase Edmonds? Someone convinced me because I wanted to see what like the other arguments were, and some of them were stupid that weren't the case, but there was a few that said like Chase Edmonds, and I remember reading those tweets and being like, man, if these guys are right, then he's not going to be a top 10 running back, and that's what happened. He was RB14, still not bad on paper. Like, was still a solid RB2, but on paper. I wouldn't. If you traded him at all in the season, I think you probably made the right choice.
Yeah. I
just wasn't comfortable starting him at like by week like 10, 11. Even when he was doing good, it was like, is he going to do good this week or is he going to get 5 points?
Yeah, no, that is part of the reason why I traded him. And just so you know, I put a lot of fantasy football stock, and I saved a lot of teams. But I put a lot of stock in Drake and Sanders, so don't think that I didn't.
There's so many tweets that are like, what happened to the people that took Sanders and Drake?
I'm still here. I still exist.
And you were great. You were in first place for a while, weren't you?
Yes. Yep.
Like, you still were good. It was just
right.
Bad finish, but it had nothing to do with Sanders and Drake.
Yeah.
You still were able to overcome those picks in the first year.
So let's quickly. We only got a couple of minutes left here, but. Let's quickly go through some wide receivers. The first one is DJ Chark. I know a lot of people are going to go, okay, Chark, I don't believe played in too many games. Let me just pull up the wide receivers so I don't get this wrong. Chark, a lot of people, and my first thought was, okay, Chark missed some time. He missed 3 games. And then I saw where he was in accordance to his 3 missed games. Wide receiver 49. He averaged 10 fantasy points a game. If you take those 10 fantasy points a game, right, and you give him 30 more fantasy points for those 3 extra games, he gets 157, which makes him the wide receiver 32. DJ Chark was not good this year for a lot of reasons, and we had him as a breakout player. I probably was a little less excited about Chark than Rick was. Rick is a Chark guy, big Chark guy.
Yep.
Big fat Chark guy. Chark chubby in his shorts.
But, next thing.
I still am a Chark. It's funny because I had him ranked higher than you did. It's funny, the guys that you really like. Rick had him ranked 20. I had him ranked 17. So I think for Chark, I think it was the fact that the quarterback was switching every other game. I think that the target share was not there for a guy like Chark. I mean, the target share was there, but it wasn't like they were giving a lot of work to James Robinson, and I think that kind of pulled some of the work off of DJ Chark. He had 94 targets this year. The interesting thing is he was number 8 in air yards. I'm not a huge fan of that statistic because a lot of guys can have great air yard target shares and not be good. But he had 1,300 air yards. That was number 8 in the NFL. If he gets a quarterback like Trevor Lawrence, I think this guy could be ridiculously good. But he needs more target share. In 2019, in 15 games, he had 117 targets, and in 13 games, he had 94. So he had targets per game basis.
What was his? I would love to know his true catch percentage and his receptions.
He had 0.6 less targets this year per game, which is not that much of a drop. What was your question?
What was his true catch percentage?
His true catch rate was 80%. His actual catch rate, like the actual statistic, was 56%, and he only had a 70% catchable target rate, which is 90th among wide receivers. So, the quarterback situation is why Chark did not have a good year. Now, I was hesitant on Chark because I'm hesitant on bad offenses. After the 2019 season, coming into the 2020 season, I was very, very much afraid of drafting guys in bad offenses because I invested in them the year before and got burned. I didn't have Chark in a single league because of his bad offense. I still thought he was going to be a breakout. I still thought he was going to be good because he overcame a lot last year, but it just didn't work out.
Yeah, I don't think I drafted Chark despite being high on him. I did have him in our home league for like a few weeks, but then I traded him a part of a package to get Jonathan Taylor when Taylor was doing bad.
Yeah.
So I was high on Chark, but I noticed right away, right when the season started, that he just wasn't going to have a good year because of the quarterback play, because of the coaching.
Yeah.
They kind of used him. It was weird. They didn't target. It felt like they didn't target him as much this year as they did last year, even though it looks like statistically they did. But yeah, the quarterback.
It's exactly the same. Like there wasn't a change in target share for him, which I kind of thought that it was going to jump from like 115, 117 to like 125, 130. I'm interested to see what I have for projections, but I don't want to leave the page.
I didn't even have a big target. So I'm looking at mine. I didn't even project him to have a major target increase from what he did last year. You said he had 117 in 2019?
Yeah.
I had him at 122 for this year. So I didn't have a major target increase. I just had him for pretty much a similar season, which he got the wide receiver 14 in 2018 or 2019.
Mm-hmm.
He was the wide receiver 14. He was decent. He really was. He was solid. And then he just wasn't as good this year. And it's weird because even with Minshew in there, he wasn't as good. Like Minshew wasn't throwing. It didn't seem like he threw it to him as much. Or when he did, it wasn't like catchable passes.
Yeah.
But does that mean I'm going to fade Chark next year? No way.
No.
Especially if Trevor Lawrence is
there. Especially if the Trevor Lawrence is there and among other things, a new head coach that is a good offensive mind. The next guy that we have is another DJ Moore, and I also looked at his numbers, and this one was a little bit more of, this is like the Kenyan Drake bust. DJ Moore was a wide receiver 22, and he played 15 out of 16 games, so he wasn't bad. He averaged about 12 fantasy points a game, which is also not horrible, but it's also not great. If he had that one extra game, 190 probably would have been somewhere around wide receiver 15, mid-range wide receiver 1. For what we thought he was going to be last year and what he actually is were two very different things, which is why I think he's on this list for us. I just wanted to read you the little breakdown that we had, if it will open. It's not going to. Oh, there it is. Hold on.
Yeah,
I got it.
You really do that. My concerns for Moore, my two concerns in the offseason, that I love DJ Moore. I did. But my two concerns for him was the signing of Robbie Anderson and if Teddy Bridgewater would throw it to him down the field. And both those things felt like it didn't really happen that much. Or like the Bridgewater didn't throw it to him down the field, and then it felt like Teddy or Robbie Anderson really did steal a lot of targets, even more than I thought. Like I think Robbie Anderson led the Panthers in targets. So like that was concerning. His snap percentage was even lower. Like it was weird, man, with DJ Moore. He's actually still pretty good of a player if you look at his numbers. his usage was weird this year.
One of the most interesting aspects is that if you buy the Fantasy Footballers draft guide, because we will offer you more than just one opinion. If you buy that draft guide, they give you a Matt Harmon's reception perception. And that is extremely helpful in projecting players. And he basically looks at, I believe it's 8 games out of the regular season, comes up with percentages for how well a player does on each route. And DJ Moore is really not that impressive based on the analysis that he provided. He's not really that impressive of a route runner, which would make sense as to why they don't utilize him on the field. I mean, he's a good route runner, which is why he's still good, but he to me, he looks at this point as if he's a player that's always going to be a mid-range wide receiver too. And I really do like DJ Moore, but it's a sketchy situation when you have a guy, especially Curtis Samuel. I mean, he was doing really good. He's one of the guys in reception perception where it's absolutely backwards. He's one of the better route runners in the NFL. And he just doesn't get the same target share because DJ Moore is the alpha one. So I wanted to read the write-up that I had in the draft guide for him. It was Adam Hutchison loves him. We love him. DJ Moore is poised for a fantastic season. In years past, Moore has struggled with Cam Newton's lack of passing production. A new system, a new quarterback, and a fresh start is exactly what DJ Moore needs. His new quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater, was able to keep Michael Thomas on pace for his wide receiver one season last year when he took over for Drew Brees. Sure, Bridgewater isn't the greatest quarterback ever, but he can get the job done, and with some decent offensive weapons, DJ Moore can explode. He could be this year's Chris Godwin. All you have to do is draft him. So it sounds like my personal opinion of him at that point was he basically just needed a new direction on the team, and I guess that didn't change anything. I actually probably made him worse.
Well, that's the thing. Like, now, you said like you see him in the futures. I think if everything stays the same, I agree. Yeah. I don't think he gets much better. But with DJ Moore, and for like you people that own him in Dynasty, which again I didn't draft DJ Moore in any league that I was in. I was mad about it because I wanted him, but I didn't own DJ Moore and I didn't draft him in any league I was in. But in Dynasty, because I think he'll do good can do good because the Panthers might draft a quarterback and Curtis Samuel is a free agent, and I do not think they're going to bring him back. So if they don't bring back Curtis Samuel and they maybe get a new quarterback,
Patriots need a slot receiver.
What was it?
I said Patriots need a slot receiver.
Yeah, I mean, Patriots would take him, but I think there's a chance DJ Moore can still get better as a player.
Okay, fair enough.
And put up better fantasy numbers, maybe then one day maybe be a low end wide receiver one, but I wouldn't like count on it. And after this year too, it's not something that you should expect because Robbie Anderson did have 136 targets, so he was the target machine. Oh
yeah, I think that was the other thing too, because I want to move on to the next guy. We only got a couple minutes left, so. It was that Robbie Anderson came in and was surprisingly good. I did not expect, nor did I don't think anyone else in the fantasy community expected Robbie Anderson to come in and command the target share that he did. It basically became DJ Moore, what we thought he was going to be, or at least took some of the target share away from what we thought he was going to be. So that's one of the things where you just don't expect something to happen and it does.
Yep.
So one of the other guys that we had was Keenan Allen being a bust. He ended at the season as the wide receiver 14. I just want to see where Allen was ranked among me and Rick because we were not high on
there's a legit reason with Keenan Allen though.
So ready for this? I had him as the wide receiver 24. You had him as the wide receiver 26. He ended as the wide receiver 14. So that's a 12-spot difference, which is disgusting that we missed him on that much. Now
that one's a big miss. This one and the Aaron Rodgers one, I think, were the two biggest misses that we had.
Yeah, that was probably our biggest misses of the fantasy football season in 2020. Our biggest misses.
Yeah, but Keenan Allen.
If I just keep saying it, maybe the video will go higher in the ranking.
Him that low was Tyrod Taylor. That's it. Like if I knew Herbert was going to start, he still wouldn't have been as high because I didn't know how good Herbert was. But a lot of that was based off Tyrod Taylor because the expectation was he was going to start pretty much the whole season, like at least like up until like week 14, 15, unless they were really losing bad. That's kind of what the expectation was. And then Herbert came in and lit it up, and all of a sudden Keenan Allen is like this top 5 receiver again. But it really was based off that. And if you look at the first week of the season, the 1 week Tyrod Taylor started, Keenan Allen had 8 targets, 4 catches, 37 yards, 0 touchdowns. That's it.
Yeah.
What is that, like 6 fantasy points?
Right.
In half PPR.
Yeah.
So we would have been right. It's literally.
I think too, when you look at like my projections, and I think this is something that we should have like factored into it. I factored it into my quarterback projections, but I did not factor it into my wide receiver projections for the team, that Herbert would take over at some point as the starter.
I projected Tyrod Taylor to start all 16 games, I think.
Okay, I projected, I don't know that I can look up the Chargers. I projected Herbert to start. I thought he was going to get 216 passing attempts, and Tyrod was going to get. I projected that they were both going to play half the season each. Okay. And you know what? If they did not poke Tyrod Taylor's along with a needle,
he probably would have.
He probably would have started the whole year. So that changed Keenan Allen's whole season. I mean, we weren't necessarily wrong on it. Like Rick just listed the stats.
Were wrong. We can say we were
wrong.
We should have expected Herbert to come in and be much better than Tyrod Taylor.
But it was a question of how long it would take Anthony Lynn to switch the quarterbacks. And that was where could you justify drafting Keenan Allen and holding on to him for half a season and then expecting him to be an elite quarterback in the back half of the season? But by the time you get to that point, there's no value. You can't trade him, and you can't. You know what I mean? There was just nothing. So for me, it was just I would, if I went back and I knew exactly what was going to happen, I probably done the same thing.
Really? If you knew Herbert, I would have ranked him higher because I really.
I would have ranked him higher. Yeah, I still wouldn't have drafted him. I don't think.
I wouldn't have ranked him as high as he finished, but if I knew Herbert was going to start most of the season, I would.
Yeah, if you just told us that one thing, he would have been ranked higher, but I still wouldn't have drafted him.
Yeah. See, I almost and you remember this. I told you this a while ago. I did almost draft him on our draft night because he was available, and a lot of the receivers I liked, like DJ Moore, was gone. And I took.
Well, let's be honest, Rick. You made some pretty shady decisions on draft night.
What was it?
Nothing.
I took Saquon.
You heard me.
I took Travis Kelce. I had good picks. I just didn't work out. But I also took Terry McLaurin in the 5th round, which was a great draft pick. But the guy I would have taken if not McLaurin.
Well, I got a question. You got some kind of like hookup with trading Terry McLaurin off your fantasy teams? Is that a thing for you? Because you continually do that.
Trading him off. I don't know why.
You trade at least 3 leagues that I'm in with you. You traded him off your team, and you love Terry McLaurin. I don't get it.
I needed a running back, so I just did it. But I regretted doing it right after I did it. I just desperately needed a running back.
Yeah. But anyway, Keenan Allen, definitely not a bust this year. He was really good. That was him, like Rick said. I think it was him, Aaron Jones, and Aaron Rodgers that were probably our biggest misses this year. Say it again.
2 Packers players.
I know. I don't get it. But the last guy I want to reference is he wasn't. I listed him on this list as a breakout. We didn't call him a breakout. We called him a sleeper. That's tight end Jonnu Smith. Jonnu ended the season this year pretty low. He had some ups and some downs. I think he was tight end 10. To put that into that's through 16.
Yeah,
I had it through 17, so that's probably why. But to put that, I am talking about through 17 weeks, just so Rick doesn't correct me again.
Oh, okay. I've been doing both. I've been looking at both.
Yeah, that's fine. But Jonnu was the tight end 10. He had 119 fantasy points. Jimmy Graham had 118 fantasy points. So, and Noah Fant was also a breakout who had, he was a tight end 12. He had 118 fantasy points. If you had any of these guys, you probably didn't have success. And I would also like to reference that Font he played all his games.
Yeah, Font. Mostly. I think Font's a bigger bust than John because we'll do
Jonnu slash. I don't want to spend a lot of time on the tight ends, but Jonnu slash Font.
Yeah, no.
Anyone that doesn't finish in the top 5 at tight end usually is pretty irrelevant. So I think yeah. If you had Jonnu or Noah Fant, you probably are sitting here going, "Wow, what happened?"
Yeah, Noah Fant was weird because everything should have gone right for him, and like in week 1, it did. I think he had like 18 points in week 1, and then they just like stopped throwing him the ball for a little bit. And then there was games where he got targeted but didn't have a lot of catches. And then there was also Drew Lock missed, I think, I want to say like two-ish games, I want to say, 2 or 3 games. He was awful in the games that Drew Lock wasn't there. Like he had like 2 fantasy points. Mm-hmm. So Font, I still like long-term. But Jonnu, we didn't like, that's not even like a real, I mean, he wasn't like a breakout or anything, but he was the tight end like 9 or 10 and 10. In 13 games played. Like he didn't play, or 14 games played. I don't know if he played week 17. Yeah. But he missed a few games too. Like he had more points per game than Gronk, I believe. Right. And some other guys. I mean, so he really wasn't that bad. I think he finished pretty much where
he was just up and down. I think the reason why he was as high as he was because AJ Brown was out. So yeah, exactly. It is interesting, but those are our biggest misses from the 2020 fantasy football season. I can't believe the front tag of this YouTube video is going to say 2021.
Yeah, that's crazy, dude.
I can't believe the season's already over. It's astounding. But anyway, our biggest misses, we hold ourselves accountable, and next year we will try our best to get better and make better projections. I don't think we'll ever get 1 year exactly predictive.
Nobody will. I mean, if we do that, we're oracles.
Back to the future, baby. Go get myself a sports almanac. Predict the whole season right. That's what I want to do. Don't forget to check out our website, thefantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. We will talk to you on Thursday, my friends.
Later.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube, and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.